Hello, hello, and welcome to another podcast episode of Overpowering Emotions, where I talk all things big emotions, emotion regulation. Today, I'm very excited. I have a very special guest, Leslie Josel. She's an award-winning ADHD student and parenting coach. She's the founder of the Order Out of Chaos, a 20-plus years company whose mission is to champion parents and professionals raising neurodivergent students. She's an award-winning author of 3 books, creator of the award-winning academic planner, a tool for time management, and an internationally acclaimed speaker. Leslie's been named as one of the top time management experts in the world by global gurus 8 years in a row. And until recently, she wrote a weekly Dear ADHD Family Coach column for the Attitude magazine. So I know that she has lots to share today, and I know you're going to take lots away. Hope you enjoy. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
I'm so happy to be back. I really love our conversation. I just like how we get right to the point and dive in. It's great.
Awesome. So, for people who are listening and have maybe not heard of you before, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So hold on. I've been around for 21 years. Well, I'm not 21. I've had Order Out of Chaos for 21 years now. And here's what I tell everyone. We are a global virtual online community, and anyone can join. It's free to join. And our mission is to champion and support parents and professionals who are raising neurodivergent students. And we say students and not children because not all our students are children. And what do you come to us for? So people come for products, meaning hard products as well as like digital and things like that. Our bread and butter are our workshops and webinars, and they're monthly. And again, you can do them as many times or as little as you want. Webinars, workshops, products, programs, and coaching. We do both student and parent coaching, all in the name of supporting those kids that need it. And myself, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a product developer. I used to write the Dear ADHD Family Coach column for Attitude. So a lot of people know me from that. A lot of people. So yeah, a lot of things going on here at Order.
Yeah, so many things.
So
Well,
many.
why don't we jump in specifically with motion regulation?
Sure.
Because we look at executive function, and this is important for all students,
Mhm.
adults too, whether there's a diagnosis or not, because we know, well, and especially children and teens, where that executive functioning is still developing, and so
Yes.
we really need to work on that. So, where should we start?
So I think where we need to start is exactly what you said, that our bread and butter is executive functioning. That's what I'm known for. That's what I teach all the time. And when I go through like what the executive functions are, and I'm very like user friendly and how I explain it, people get like, okay, effort and focus and, organizing and time. And then when I mention that mood regulation or emotional regulation is actually an executive function, I find that that's the aha moment. That's the one that most of us don't really correlate with being an executive function. And what I try to do is remind parents that there is something called executive age. It's really important. And if you've ever spent any time on any of our webinars, you'll know that no matter what I'm speaking on, I always start every webinar talking about executive age because it's the mindset of where we all need to be living. So very quickly, I'm going to do it very Reader's Digest version, is that if your student at home, we call them students, has any type of executive function challenge, they will be about 30% less their chronological age for that challenge. Doesn't mean across the board, it's just for that challenge. So if you have a 13-year-old at home, and they might be 13 in all their 13ness, verbally, socially, even academically, that's really important here. But if they have a really hard time, right, controlling their moods, their behaviors, they're really going to be 9. And what you're going to expect from that 9-year-old and how you're going to scaffold that 9-year-old is very different than 13. And so I think I want to start with that mindset. That's number one. The second mindset I want to give everybody is that this is really important. Most kids do not wake up in the morning and say, I really want to piss off my parents today, or I really want to piss off my teachers today. And they usually start with somewhat of a clean slate. Now they go to school. Now we're going to talk brick and mortar. We're not talking homeschooling. We're not talking co-oping. We're talking a typical type of brick and mortar school. And what happens a lot is your student, I always do this. I want everybody listening to hold your stomach in. Come on, do it. Pull it in, pull it in. Now I want you to hold that for 8 hours. That's your neurodivergent child. For every ounce of energy that a kid that is more neurotypical is putting out, your student is doing it at least 10 times more. So remember, everything's flooding at them, everything, their working memory, their time management, their emotions, all of it just keeps filling that bucket and filling that bucket. And I know it's a bucket, and we've seen that with little kids. This is our big kids too, right? They're filling it and they're filling it and they're holding it in. And like the minute, the second they're out of school or in your presence or in your home, it all just comes flooding out. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. And everything is wrong, right? The snack is wrong. The sister's too loud. The dog's annoying me, right? It's like things are like, what? I didn't even. And a lot of times what we say to ourselves is, wow, that like happened in a second, right? We went from 0 to 90. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Because what you didn't see what was under the surface. It has been brewing and brewing and brewing. And what we tend to do in those moments, so here's your sciencey lesson, but I promise you it's user friendly, is what we tend to do is we automatically go as parents to that left brainness of our kids. Okay, so we're going to roll this back for a minute and we're going to explain right brain, left brain. And this is how I do it. I want you to think your left brain, all the L words. That's how you remember it. Linear, logical, right? Well, this isn't an L word. Rational, right? Logic, all of those L words. That's the left brain. That's when the brain is in neutral. But then we have our right brain, and our right brain is emotion. Our right brain is moody and cranky. I know I can't say it. We got to keep it clean. Can be a little, you know what, a little itchy. Put a letter in front of it, right? All of those things. So when your student is in right brain mode, what you're forgetting is that right brain has completely taken over the left brain. Completely. That left brain has left the building, right? I'm in Los Angeles. It's like in St. Louis right now. It's gone. It's completely gone. And yet we're still talking to that left brain. And it's nowhere to be found. And what we're doing is we're fueling and fueling and fueling that right brain to make it even bigger and make it more profound and make it more like what do they call it? Like poking the bear. So I want you to remember feelings over facts. The right brain will always win. Okay, so now you're like, great. So now I'm dealing with a right brain kid. What do I do? Well, you've got to connect to that right brain first. You got to forget about the left brain for a minute. Now, here's what we do as parents. We tend to do two things. We either get a little annoyed, get a little angry. I'm a straight shooter, friends, right? I always say, do you want hugs or do you want help? Okay, I'm here for the help. But that's what we do. We're like, we get angry, we get annoyed, we get short, and so we poke that. We're thinking, we're talking like, oh, come on, it's not a big deal, get over it. Like, why are you acting like this? Why? Never ask that question. You're never going to get an answer. So we're either coming at it in this very kind of like negative way, or, and I almost think this is more important, we come at it thinking we're really positive. Mm-hmm. Right? I almost think it's more important. Like, I think we can all figure out, hey, if I'm going to be like, cranky and whatever to my kid, I'm going to get that response back. But what I'm not understanding is I'm being helpful. I'm being kind. I'm saying nice things. Why is it getting worse? I almost think that's what we need to focus on. I say, it's not so bad. You're going to be fine, right? You need to just get over it. It's no big deal. Wrong answer. Because even those things that you think are helpful and think that should help, they're actually poking that right brain, because what you're doing in that is you're still putting on your child how you think. You're telling them what to do there. You're telling them get over it. You're telling them you're actually putting your feelings on theirs. So what I want you to do is come to the table as neutral as you possibly can be. And I want you to use terms or phrases, I should say, more like I'm listening. Go on. I'm here. Keep going. What do you need from me right now? It's really good. What do you need? They might say nothing. That's okay. Right? I I want you to use, I don't want you to pass any opinion or any judgment, because your goal right then and there is just to bring down that right brain. Get rid of it. You want to get rid of it. You want to bring your child back to center. And the one that I love the most, this is all for my parents who have a little bit maybe older students, is I want you to think of the acronym WAIT. Why am I talking?
I love that.
Write it down, friends, because why are you talking? And I'm going to own this one. Years and years and years ago, when my son would get, he actually had the wherewithal to look at me and say, you need to stop talking right now, or I need you to leave me alone right now. And that wasn't a signal for me to follow him down the hall as he was going to his bedroom and me to keep talking. No, I didn't interpret that correctly. When he said, I need to be alone right now, I need you to stop talking right now, I was not listening to that. And I was, but nobody. So why am I talking? There is beauty in the silence, right? There is calm in the silence. The other thing you can do, and I do this sometimes, not all of you might like this, but I do ask this one question sometimes, and I will say, I teach this, can you match me tone for tone? I find that sometimes when our kids go high or go loud, that if we tend to go louder, and that cannot happen. I want you to try going really quiet. I want you to almost whisper. There's something in the brain that automatically brings your child down because it's the tone and it's the sound that's happening around them, and it brings them down. So if they're loud, I want you to whisper. You might even say, can you match me tone for tone? And you're being very quiet about it. You're asking, you're not saying match me tone for tone. You're asking. I know that was a lot, but I want to stop there. So that's, I think, is really important, is to almost set up the situation before we dive in even further.
Yeah, exactly. And that validation, I mean, that's what it is. So they feel that they're heard and understood, because otherwise they're just going to keep fighting, right? Until you get it. And it's just going to keep escalating.
Right. There's that fight or flight that is really happening. I don't know if it was you I had this conversation with, we were talking about in a previous one, but I'll share it. There's a lot of things to know about your child who has ADHD or is neurodivergent. Tons. I mean, we could spend all day chatting. But I find that the one thing, and I've been doing this for 21 years, I find that the one thing we do not talk a lot about is that your child does not want to be caught off guard. That's a big one. We understand that the ADHD brain, or the executive functioning brain, however you want to talk about it, it needs calm, it needs structure, it needs organization, it needs all of those things. But underneath it all, what it really doesn't want is to be caught off guard, because the brain can't catch up all the time. It can't be prepared for that. So that's where the fight or the flight comes in. That's why we want to bring them to center. Now, I'm going to answer this before it's asked. Let's say your kid did something really crappy. I'm sorry. Is that okay for me to say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Yeah.
And you're like, but I want to parent them, right? And I'm like, you get to parent. I'm a parent. Listen, my kids are really flown and grown, really flown and grown. I mean, they're like, but I parented. What I didn't do was parent in that moment. And that's what I think parents struggle with. It's like, you want to get your point across now, and you want to ask why now. Just stop asking why. They don't know why. Their brain can't tell them why. But my point is, you cannot parent them in that moment. You need to get to neutral. You need things to settle, and then you can parent. And if it's instilling a natural consequence or whatever it is that happened, that's when it happens. So I'm not telling you not to, but you actually need to show some empathy. And then that does not mean, okay, because I want to answer this. If your student is doing something harmful to you or to himself, all bets are off. All bets are off. Okay.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
All bets are off. I'm sorry. That is behavior that is non-negotiable. For me, some of you might disagree. I know online right now, there's so much debate about this. There's definitely two different camps. I do not believe in that, and you might as well hear it. I do not believe that that anyone should be harmed. Okay, I'm sorry. I do not. There's period, end of conversation. That's it. There's nothing to talk about there. But if your kid is exploding and having a moment and is angry and is not harming anyone, yes, that's okay. They're entitled. I get angry. But what we want you to do is not fuel it. We want you to try to
Disarm, bring it
solve,
down. Yeah.
like that word, bring it down, and then parent after.
Yeah. Which is always, yeah, never in the heat of the moment. And even when kids get dysregulated and they get escalated, they might come down to calm, but they're way quicker to get re-escalated again. So you want to make sure there's a good time. It's not the minute they're all of a sudden calm because we're immediately going to re-engage them. So
In fact, one of my, and it's funny, we didn't really talk about this, but this is something that I talk about all the time in our webinars and things. It's giving your child a time, a very specific time. So I might actually say, like teach a parent, say to their child, you know what, I know you're, name it. I know you had a feeling of this or that, whatever it is, again, depending on your child's age, like how you're gonna name it. You know what? I'm going to give you some time to settle in. Why don't we talk at 7? I actually like that. And I'm going to tell you why. Remember, the brain does not like being caught off guard. One of the reasons why sometimes your student's brain can't settle is it thinks when it's okay, when is my mom and dad or parent or guardian, whoever, going to sit down with me? Like they're on edge. So like immediately they're going to get triggered because they're waiting. There's that anticipation. I don't want to be caught off guard. If you say, you know what, why don't we sit down at 7 to talk, and then it'll give you time to collect your thoughts. There's less of that anticipation. Now, they might not like that they still have to talk about it, but that piece of it is out the window. And we do that with everything. I have a really fun anecdote that I think is really I think it's going to resonate with everybody. So do you mind if I share it?
no, go ahead. Yeah.
We talk a lot about this, like in our Facebook group and our parent coaching and all of that, not about so much what is typical that triggers a child or a student, things that we predict will happen, right? Like, okay, I've got to, I'm gonna have to tell my kid X, Y, and Z. I know that's gonna, because those we know and those we can hopefully prepare for. It's the ones that are head scratchers. It's the one where you go to yourself, I don't get it. What did I say? All I said was, and that triggered. So here's the one that we hear all the time. It's the one where you or whomever in your home goes, we'll use my son as the example. We'll just use his name. Hey, Eli, can you come here for a minute?
Right.
End scene. And you're thinking, I just need to talk about carpool, logistics, baseball, who's driving tomorrow for the most, right? Innocuous thing. That's what you're thinking. But what's your student thinking? The first thing they're thinking, what did I do?
Yeah.
That is the absolute first thing. What did I do? Because they don't remember. Their working memory is very weak. And they're like, did I do something? I must have done something because I'm always doing something because I'm always hearing my name. I know I'm being but that's what I want you to hear. I want you to feel my intensity because that's what your kid is feeling. What did I do? I don't remember what I did. Did the teacher call them? I did a call. And now they're freaking out because they don't even remember, but they're about to confess something because of course they did something wrong. That's number one. The other thing they're asking themselves, how long is this going to take?
Yeah.
That is why I always put time parameters on things because it brings that emotional level down. So here's an easy one. Instead of just, hey, can you come downstairs for a minute? Which is and you're going, why is he or she or whoever, why are they explosive? Why are they freaking out? Why are they being defiant? Like, what did I say? And you're going, what did I say? And now it's like, I want you to preempt it. We call it preempting with time and topic. Easy to remember, your 2 T's, time and topic. So here's how it looks. Hey, Eli, sorry, we call me. Hey, Eli, can you come downstairs? Want to chat for 10 minutes about carpool tomorrow? Now I have a kid who will come. Maybe he'll say, can you give me a minute? But now I have a kid who's at neutral. And if you do not think that you can do this with your older kids, I told you, my kids are flown and grown. Okay. I have a neurotypical and I have a neurodiverse. My son, who's actually 27 today, I still do this. Even though he doesn't live with me, he is fully flown and grown. I still go, hey, I need 10 minutes of your time. I'll text him because that's how he communicates. I need 10 minutes on the phone with you to talk about, whatever it is. I never go, hey, can I talk to you for a sec? Even at 27, I don't do that because I know that if I do that, I'm going to get a very different person showing up on the other end.
Yeah.
But I say, hey, I need to talk to you about, he's like, I'm not even done texting and my phone rings. Sure, what's up? Let's chat. It's so nuanced and we don't think about it, but these are the things that we're doing that we can easily change to foster better communication in our homes, foster less, explosive outbursts at home, things that, like, there are things that are completely unavoidable. We know that. So what I like to do is let's try to avoid what is avoidable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's all great. Now, what if in those situations where they are physically aggressive or they're like, some of the kids are destructive and they're now smashing things and breaking things. And in those moments, any tips
So
for?
here's what I'm going to say to you. Like I said, I've been around for 21 years and I've been doing this, and I've had many, many parents across that have had parents like this. So I think this is the right answer for me. I am acutely aware of where I begin and end, and I am really good at what I do, really good. But if I have a parent across from me who's telling me that their child is aggressive, hurting them, meaning hurting the parents, hurting themselves, maybe a sibling, is really, really destructive. I do have one. I will get there in a minute. That you need to seek professional help. That goes without saying, and that anyone like in my position who is not saying that to you is not doing their due diligence. It is our job to say to you that is a level that, yes, we can give you some tips, but you need to be under the care of someone who, can specialize in whether it's a doctor, a therapist, med management, whatever it is. I'm sorry, that's the right answer.
Right.
Now, what I do like to do, and I've had a lot of parents be very successful in this, is making sure that there is maybe somewhere in your home that we call an escape and regulate zone. Now, you're not going to use those words with your kid because that's a little like heavy, like escape and regulate, but and make sure, but they should know what it's for. I'm a firm believer in labeling things. I'm a firm believer in saying, hey, I notice you get very X when Y happens. Let's figure out a safe place for you in the house that you can go to that will help you come to center, come to neutral, whatever wording you want to use. And it could be, if you have a basement, it could be even a spot in their bedroom. Maybe it's a beanbag chair so that they get that sensory. A lot of my parents have punching bags that, you know what I mean, that they use, that's really, really, really effective. Or you put things in that, like that escape zone that give your kid that like sensory seeking, calm down behavior. So maybe a favorite book is in there. Maybe there's a blanket, maybe there's a beanbag so they feel right. Maybe there's music of something like, I'm very careful what I say about my kid because he's 27, but this I am allowed to share, and that is parenting 101. I am not a believer in exploiting my kids for any reason whatsoever, to the point where today is his birthday, and I even asked him last night, are you okay if I post that on my Instagram to wish you a happy birthday? And are you okay with the picture I want to use? He's not 8, he's 27, he's a grown man. So I'm just being careful, but years and years ago, my son did have some explosive behavior, and what helped him was music. Music. So if he didn't even go to his place, I would flip the music on in our house immediately, and it would all come down. So you got to figure out. And here's the other thing I want you to know. If you have a child that is self-advocating for themselves, meaning understands, has the wherewithal of like, okay, I'm in a place right now, I need to go to my happy place, and you hear that punching bag being punched, That is not an invitation either for you to go. And I see that all the time. Oh my God, I have to go. And I'm like, no, not every emotion is an emergency. I want you all to write that down. Not every emotion is an emergency. They're self-advocating. That's what we want.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, what are the skills my kid needs as life goes on to transfer out of high school to either a job or college? And I will always say that they need to be able to problem solve. They need to self-soothe. Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's a
they need
huge
to
one.
advocate for themselves. So your child's doing all three in that moment. I'm problem solving. What do I need right now? I'm self-advocating myself. This is what I need right now. And I'm self-soothing. I need to punch a bag. That is not an invitation for you to interrupt that. If anything, what you should be doing when they're done is praising them.
Yeah.
I am so proud of you. You were upset over whatever, and you knew how to help yourself. Wow. I want a marching band and a freaking parade in your house. Sorry. I get very emotional about things like that because we don't look at it that way as parents. We look at it negatively. Oh my God, he had to punch the punching bag. Damn straight. Isn't that great that he punched the punching bag? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done.
No, no, no. This is all good. I mean, it's great because all my questions you answer in as you keep going, and I think it just comes back to weight, and maybe a different weight, not the same sort of acronym, but maybe like why are you going down to talk and engage? But
Why am I down? Why am I walking? I don't know how we do that one.
that's
Right.
a big problem. From the minute they're babies. I mean, babies, we are having to co-regulate and we're having to do all of those things, but we're never giving our kids the opportunity to self-soothe. We are always there, even just from a loving, caring place. And we're robbing them of all those opportunities to learn how to do it themselves. And then we start wondering why, when they're 13 or 17 or 27, freaking out. It's because they've never learned. We've always interrupted that process.
I love that word, interrupt. So here's a great, and this is not a Leslie-ism. I'm sorry, in my world, like people say, that's a Leslie-ism. Do you know what I mean? Because I
Right.
have
Yeah.
my little, this is not a Leslie-ism, friends. This is actually research proven. We see that the more, I want to say it the right way, so I want to get my thoughts together. The more agency, the more choice and control, the more we let our kids do what it is they need to do, their anxiety levels go down and their motivation levels go up. So in other words, the tighter we hold, the worse behaviors our kids have.
Yeah.
So that's why to your point exactly, is we interrupt. I love that. We interrupt. Now, again, hurting themselves, hurting others, destroying, non-negotiable. But that's it. Other than that, if you have a kid in his bedroom who's like, okay, did he pick up maybe something and threw one thing? Am I freaking out over that? No, I'm not. I listen, I had a bad day last Thursday and you can't see, I actually took something and threw it. I did. I just needed to throw something. Okay, it happens. Again, I think you're smart enough people to know what I mean by like what's truly destructive versus like, taking my math folder and throwing it across the room. That to me is completely acceptable. Okay.
Right.
But other than that, to your point, no, the interrupting needs to happen. And I'd love to share something else along those lines. Because what we didn't talk about, which I really want to talk about, if that's okay, is lying.
Oh, yeah, great
We
one.
talk about lying because I know you're gonna all hate me at the end of this. Sorry, I just have to move my body a little. I broke my ribs.
Ooh,
I had an accident a couple months ago and I broke 4 ribs. And the one thing that's still lingering is if I can't sit in one place. I have to constantly,
you have to
I
move
have
them.
wiggles. I got to get the wiggles out. I feel a lot with lying that we sometimes as parents, I want to get my thoughts together. And I'm not here disparaging you. If you're listening to this podcast, you're an amazing parent. You're showing up, you're doing the work, you want to do better. Trust me, I've been doing this and I'm still parenting my flown and groans. I feel like you never stop parenting. I'm still learning. I am. I'm still self-correcting. I'm still going, wait, why did I do that? They're 30 years old. They're 27. Like why? Like, stop, shush, Leslie, shush. Like, trust me, I still do. So I want you all to know I'm not disparaging you in any way. Like, bravo to you for being here. But I've also been doing this for 21 years and see a lot of parents do this to me. I catch my kid in a lie. I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And they'll go, well, I can check if they've done their homework. So I play gotcha. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Well, I know they didn't do it, or I know the garbage didn't get taken out, or I know they didn't. But instead of saying, hey, I see that, they're going, did you? So they're setting it up almost like a gotcha moment. And I'm like, why are we doing that? Why are we there? You could have the same effect without, and again, we're looking at it from a perspective of escalation, right? We're looking at it from a point of emotional regulation. We're looking at it from a point of keeping things neutral. Again, that does not mean you don't get to parent, but why are we feeding that escalation by asking the why, or I know, right? Or did you not, I'm sorry, not the why, did you, when you sure as heck know the answer to the question?
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that. I see that all the time. And I want you out there to rethink that kind of motive and position. It is just as effective to say, so I know that, or I noticed that, instead of catching them in that lie.
Yeah.
That catching in that lie is going to do you no favors. And
Yeah.
again, what I want is, I noticed this. If they can't answer you at that moment, because again, that caught off guard brain, not happy right now, I want you to delay the conversation. Hey, let's sit down at X, because by then you should, hopefully you'll be able to, like, figure out, what it is you want to say, or you'll remember your story, or whatever it is. That doesn't mean that they get off the hook. It just means that you're trying to keep the escalation here.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing, and then I'm gonna, is, I get asked all the time, why does my kid lie? Well, a lot of times they lie because what it is you're asking them to do is actually easier not to do it, and it's easier to lie. I have plenty of kids that sit across my thing and go, what, are you kidding me? I'd much rather lie, because my parent will barely ever give me a consequence, because, whatever. And it's just easier to lie than it is to do what it is I'm being asked to do, because I don't know how to do what it is. So I kind of need you to remember that too, that if something's not getting done, it might not be that they just want to annoy you. It might actually be that they don't know how. So before we punish the don't know how, we need to make sure they know how. And the only other thing I want to say is, and I kind of pose this question, is a lot of times your student lies because of how you are handling the truth.
Right.
And I don't think we talk about that enough. So I want you to think about how, when your child comes to you and actually tells you something that's truthful that you might not like, what is your reaction to it? What space are you providing? And how are you responding? Because if you're responding in a way, then you know what? They're going to lie. I would. I did. My parents were awful when I told them the truth about things that weren't great. So guess what I did my entire childhood? I lied. I know I don't look it, but I did. I lied all the time because I knew that if I told them the truth, I was going to get a horrible reaction. So I might as well have lied. So I want you to guys think, how am I responding to the truth? It's a great question for you, because that also helps to keep things. Remember, all this is to keep emotional regulation neutral.
Well, I even remember I worked on a cruise ship actually right after graduating university, and we went to Rome for the day, which is a few hours away from the port. But we were all part of the entertainment team, and so we were supposed to stay on the cruise ship at certain times. So we had to be back in the afternoon to do like basketball or water polo or those types of things. And we were late. We all missed our shifts. I was the only one who felt so terrible. And I went to my boss and said, like, I was just sick to my stomach that I had missed my shift on the cruise ship. I got reprimanded. Nobody else said anything. They lied, or they didn't lie, but they stayed quiet, didn't say anything, and nothing happened. And I got for 2 weeks all of my privileges to leave the cruise ship revoked because I went and told the truth. And so that's an example of how we actually make it punishing to tell the truth.
Right. So my feeling is that, yes, if your child did something you didn't like, and maybe there needs to be a natural consequences, I always say two things can exist at the same time. Excuse me. You could be upset, but you also can praise. And I know that's really weird, but you can do it. And I've done this. I do this all the time when I teach parents this. There is a way to say, like I'm really proud of the fact that, that must have been really hard for you. Not easy to come in and say, like, I did something wrong. And, I want you to lead with that. I want you to lead with the praise. And I know sometimes we say like everything after the but doesn't mean anything, but it does in this situation. And two things can exist. So you can say, you can praise the fact that they didn't lie. You can praise the fact that they stood up for it. And if there is a natural consequence, that you can do that too. I promise you it will land better. It
Yeah.
will absolutely land better.
Well, from that experience, this was one of the things that my husband and I talked about when we first had babies is we are always going to praise telling the truth. And so like in that situation, if it was my kids coming to me, around something similar, I would praise, and then we're going to collaborate. So how are we going to make this up? How are we going to make this up to, the passengers on the boat who had wanted to go play basketball or whatnot. Because now we can, and kids will usually come up with a better consequence than we ever could have. But it is that sort of collaboration piece. Uh, the other thing
I always say, don't focus on the reason. Here's another one of Leslie isms. Don't focus on the reason. So stop asking why. Focus on the repair.
right.
Okay, your kid came to you. Great. How are you going to rectify this? How are you going to repair this? What do you think? That's a consequence. I find that repairing something is a consequence. Maybe they have to go back to a friend and say something. Maybe they have to go deal with their sister. Maybe they have to go, they didn't mow the lawn, whatever it is. That is a consequence in my book, is how you are going to repair. So I want you to remember that too. Don't focus on the reason, focus on the repair. And this is a really interesting one. And I think it all plays to emotional regulation. We get a lot of parents who come to us and say, like, can you believe this? My kid asked me this. My kid asked for this. And I got so angry. Like, how could they ask for that? Like, how did they really think that I was going to say yes? And I'm like, does it really matter that they asked that? What does it matter? They can ask for anything they want. They're just asking you, right? So here's my scenario. Never forget it, as long as I live. 16, my daughter at the time, 16. We lived in New York. Concert was an hour away. School night. Hey, can I go by myself with a bunch of friends, girlfriends, to a concert an hour away? Susie's driving. We'll be home about 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was a Tuesday night. Can we go? No. I don't know. I tell that story in our groups, and parents are like, I would have been furious. I would have been furious. How could she have asked that? I'm like, what's to get furious about? She can ask for whatever she wants.
Yeah.
It's not what she asked for. It's how did she handle the no? That's the emotional regulation piece. And they're like, huh, I don't think of it that way. I ask for things I don't get. Right? I do. Even at my age, there are things that I ask for that do not happen. But I'm not meaning that I don't get. And it's not about what I asked for. No one's yelling at me for asking it, but it's how did I handle it? So I look at her and I remember that. And did she storm off? Yes. Did she sulk? Yeah. Did she have every right to? Yeah. But you know what? She went into her room. She slammed the door. I didn't see her for the night. Okay. Total 16-year-old perfect reaction. And you know what? By the next morning, we had moved on. And what I did in that moment is I praised her.
Yeah.
Yes, friends, I did. I said, wow, you handled that really well. If I had been you, I would have kicked and screamed and did, because I would have. I was that kid. I know I don't seem it. Oh, I was. I would have probably snuck out even, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would have snuck out. Yep.
Me, would have snuck out. Shouldn't do that. And you know what? I praised her till like the cows came home. I know I'm dating myself with that expression. And everyone's like, I don't look at it that way. That's how we keep emotional regulation down. It's not what she asked for, it's how she handled the no.
Right. So we got to get over our own stuff because I think we get stuck in our heads with you need to be respectful to me and you can't slam the door and you better come back and say that nice. We get caught up in all the wrong stuff.
Well, you got to listen. I feel like we have to be, to raise emotionally regulated kids, we have to be emotionally regulated parents. Okay. They're watching. I think you have to find what are your like non-negotiables. I don't like the term hills to die on because I don't want anybody to die. I like the words non-negotiables. I did not, we ran a very loose household. We did. There was not a lot of things that bothered me. And so what my kids knew what bothered was like they were very clear. You want it, like, I'm going to be blunt because some of you might be going, this is what happens in my house and I'm ashamed. We all have pouty mouths in my house. We don't curse at each other. Like, I don't call my kids names. I don't, never have, nor do they. But they're like, but they will say in the heat of a moment, God, this is really, blah, blah of you. You know what? You'll figure it out. That's my reaction. That was not a thing my husband and I felt. We did not feel if they did that, they were disrespectful. For me, disrespectful was lying. That was really a non-negotiable in my house because that's how, that was non-negotiable because I knew what I did as a kid and knew that I don't know as a parent if I could have handled that. So if they came to us and were truth tellers, even if it was really not great things, I'm trying to keep this clean, we actually praised them for that like communication and for keeping the emotional regulation down and for being truth tellers. So you're going to have to figure out on your own in your own house, like what's the non-negotiable for you. For us, it was truth because I felt like if if I didn't have that, I had nothing. So we allowed expression, we allowed door slamming, we allowed them to like yell at us, not yell at us like dangerously, but we allowed them to, because you know what? I was like, I would do that. Like and remember, their brains are not as fully functioned as mine is. So I don't know if everyone's going to be hanging up on me, like going, but that's kind of how I feel. And I feel like now and remember, I had a kid that was really emotionally dysregulated, really emotionally dysregulated. So yes, I had done things to answer your question. I called the police on a few occasions. I had the police go to my high school and pull my kid out of class. Oh, yes, I did, because it warranted it. Never did that again, meaning after that happened. So to answer your question, I did do those things, which because I had a non-negotiable line drawn. And I think that's another thing. Maybe it's not emotional regulation per se, but if both of and I teach this to all of our parents, and this is probably the hardest thing, but but I was really, when all of this was swirling and my son was in, his thing, and I had an older kid, and my husband and I would sit down, and he's an amazing parent, but let me do a lot of it because it's what I do for a living. The one thing I knew that my son needed, and by effect, my daughter too, was remember, does not like to be caught off guard. He's sensing a theme. He needed things to be clear. He needed to know what was expected. He needed the goalpost not to move. And if both of my kids were sitting here, remember, 30 and 27, they would say without a shadow of a doubt, we might not have liked all the rules, we might not have liked some of the parameters, but we always knew where we stood. Yeah. We never had to guess. And that created a calm, safe environment.
It is totally related to emotion regulation because our brain is a prediction machine. And so just what you were saying, that predictability, knowing exactly what those boundaries and expectations are and what's going to happen if we break them. And it doesn't matter what my behavior is, it's always firmly there. That actually does create, you said, it creates calm in the brain. It actually is creating that predictability and it calms the nervous system, right? Because now they've got that predictability. So if they choose to break it, hey, thanks for letting me know that this is the consequence you wanted.
Exactly. And that is what I say. I will say, and I'm nice about it. I think that's it. I'm very neutral. I know I'm animated and chatty. I don't, do I yell occasionally? Not anymore. My kids are not, they're not at age anymore where I need to yell at them. But like, were they younger? Did I yell sometimes? Yeah. And then I would actually excuse myself and I would apologize.
Right.
Always, always. But to your point, I always tried to stay that, like, I would stay neutral and calm and go, I'm really sorry you made that. I'm really sorry you made that choice today to do X. And because of that, you don't get to do Y. But I always used to end it on a positive. I always used to say, my kids go, you always used to say to us, and I'm sure tomorrow you'll make a much better choice for yourself.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
end scene.
And then
Because
tomorrow you can say, hey, how can I help you make the choice you want for
right,
today? Yeah.
right, exactly. But I always ended it with, and I am sure tomorrow you're going to make a much better choice because I think that's important to help regulate the brain as well.
It sounds like we have identical ways of parenting. So there's so much here. I thank you so much. The time has flown by. It feels like it's been
No,
15 minutes, but I can't believe it. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. It was a lot. I know that everyone's going to be taking a lot of helpful information away. I will have all your information in the show notes, but for people who are listening right now, where's the very best place to find you?
so we always send people we have two websites actually, but the name of my company is Order Out of Chaos. The website is orderoochaos.com. And from there, you can find our programs, our parent education library, our services, our webinars, anything you want, even our socials. So go there first and take it from there.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.